What happens when a controversial royal sits down with America's most unapologetic talk show host and the conversation goes completely off the rails? Tonight, we break down the explosive moment when Prince Harry faced off with Bill Maher in a tense and uncomfortable interview that left the audience stunned and the internet buzzing. Make sure to subscribe and leave a comment, because this one escalates fast. The lights were hot, the cameras rolled. Bill Maher leaned back in his chair, that trademark smirk barely hiding the edge in his voice. Sitting across from him, Prince Harry adjusted his jacket, visibly tense but trying to project calm. The audience knew something was coming. With a guest this high profile and a host this provocative, it was never going to stay polite for long. "So, Harry," Maher began, "you've gone from a palace to a Montecito mansion. How's the California exile treating you?" Harry sat a little straighter. "It's been liberating, actually. For the first time in my life, I can make decisions. For myself, I don't need permission from an institution rooted in centuries of outdated tradition." "Liberating," Maher echoed, raising an eyebrow. "Funny, because it looks to a lot of people like you just traded one institution for another. You left the crown, and now you've got Netflix bosses and Spotify execs calling the shots. How's that any different?" Laughter rippled through the crowd. Harry's jaw tensed. "There's a big difference between choosing your collaborators and having your life dictated by bloodlines and ceremonial nonsense," Harry said, trying to hold his ground. Maher leaned forward, sensing an opening. "You grew up with absurd privilege, the best education, global fame. Billions would trade places with you in a heartbeat. Then you leave all that behind and come to America to complain about how hard your life was. Doesn't that come off as just a little tone-deaf?" Harry's face colored. "With respect, you're reducing a very complicated situation into a soundbite. Yes, I had privilege, but I also had zero privacy, no control over my own life, and I watched the press destroy my mother with that same system." Bill nodded, but didn't soften. "Your mother, Princess Diana, was adored. She used her position to shine a light on landmines, AIDS, patients, causes that mattered. She didn't abandon the system. She bent it. Why couldn't you?" Harry gripped the arms of his chair. "Because the system killed her, Bill, the paparazzi, the constant surveillance, the pressure to perform. I wasn't going to let that happen to my wife or my children." "But that's what's confusing," Maher countered. "You say you wanted privacy, but then came Oprah, the memoir, the Netflix doc? That doesn't sound like privacy. That sounds like PR, like controlling the story or cashing in." Harry bristled. "Sometimes you have to tell your story before others twist it for you. Or," Maher snapped, "you just want to monetize the drama." The air went dead silent. Maher kept pushing. "Let's be honest. The royal family didn't disown you. They didn't cut you off. But you're still using the titles, still leveraging the royal brand for media deals. You want out, but you want the perks. You can't have it both ways." Harry's voice rose. "I'm not leveraging anything. I'm sharing my truth about a broken institution that needs change." Maher smirked. "That phrase, your truth, drives me nuts. There's not your truth and my truth. There's just the truth. And the truth is, while you're making millions telling the world how hard your life was, people here are drowning, working 3 jobs, can't afford health care, and they're supposed to feel sorry for a prince in a $14 million mansion." The face was now visibly flushed. "You think I don't care? I've spent my adult life working with veterans, with mental health programs, supporting causes bigger than myself. I'm not asking for pity, but that's how it comes across," Maher said flatly, "like grievance packaged for profit." The audience watched, stunned. It was no longer an interview, it was a duel, and Prince Harry was in the ring, with someone who never pulls punches. "Yes, and that's great," Maher nodded. "But you've also spent a lot of time talking about your problems on platforms that pay you millions. There's a difference between advocacy and self-promotion." Harry bristled. "I'm not self-promoting. I'm trying to break generational cycles of trauma and pain that have haunted my family for decades." Maher let out a short, sharp laugh that didn't hide its contempt. "Break cycles of trauma? Harry, you're a prince. You've had access to more resources, more therapists, more treatments than 99% of the planet. Most people don't get the luxury of processing their trauma on a podcast deal. Money doesn't solve everything, Bill." "No," Maher snapped, "but it sure as hell helps." Then came the real punch. You talk about breaking cycles, but all you've done is build a new one. Instead of changing the system like your mother tried to do, you turned family dysfunction into a brand, a product, a business model. How's that healing anything? The room fell completely still. Even the studio cameras seemed to hesitate. Harry leaned in now, his voice low and tight with fury. You have no idea what you're talking about. You've never lived under that kind of pressure, ever had your every breath dissected from birth. You're right, Maher replied. Cool. As ever, I wasn't born into palaces or privilege. I didn't inherit a global spotlight. But I also didn't inherit a trust fund or the ability to call world leaders like it's ordering lunch. You have problems, sure, but you also have a hell of a toolbox to solve them. The tension in the studio had become suffocating. Face was flushed now. Look, Bill, I get it. To make a living being provocative, but this is exactly the kind of cynical, toxic thinking that made me walk away in the first place. This instinct to tear people down the moment they open. Maher raised an eyebrow. Oh, so I'm the problem now. Not the guy who aired his family's darkest secrets on international TV. I'm just saying what everyone else is thinking. If you can't handle a little scrutiny about your choices, maybe you shouldn't be doing interviews. Scrutiny. Harry's voice cracked. You're attacking my motives, dismissing real conversations about mental health, and dragging my mother's memory into this. Whoa. Maher held up his hands. Let's get something straight. I said your mother was beloved. I said she used her voice to make a difference. And now you're tossing out phrases like institutional racism. Where did that come from? It's all connected, Harry, said voice tightening further. The way the media treated Meghan, the way the institution failed to protect her, and the way people like you continue to trivialize our experiences because they don't fit your narrative. Maher leaned back, genuinely caught off guard. People like me, what the hell does that mean? It means people who benefit from systems of privilege while mocking anyone who tries to speak out against them. People who make jokes about real problems because taking them seriously would mean looking in the mirror. Now Maher's voice sharpened. Harry, I've been calling out power structures for decades. The church, the state, the media, America. The difference is, I never asked for a Netflix check to do it. And I sure as hell never acted like a victim in the process. I never said I was a victim, oh really, because that's all we've heard. That the palace was cruel, the media was unfair, the world didn't understand you. At what point do you take responsibility for your choices instead of blaming everyone else? And then Harry snapped. He stood abruptly, fury radiating off him. Take responsibility. I did take responsibility. I walked away. I gave up everything I'd ever known to protect my wife and kids. I surrendered military titles, charities, a relationship with my family. Maher stood too now, waving a hand. Dismissively, you gave up royal duties and landed a $100 million deal. That's not sacrifice. That's a rebrand. The audience shifted uneasily. The air was thick, no longer entertaining. This wasn't late-night sparring. This was personal. Harry pointed at Maher. You know what your real problem is, Bill? You hate that someone actually had the guts to walk away from a toxic, broken institution. You sit on the sidelines cracking jokes, but when someone acts, you mock them for it. A corrupt system, Maher scoffed, the laugh hard-edged. Harry, you're talking about the British monarchy like it's some kind of crime syndicate. These are your grandparents, your father, your brother. Are you really calling your own family corrupt? I'm calling the institution corrupt, Harry shot back. Not the people, the structure, Maher leaned in. But the people are the institution. You can't separate the two. And here's what I don't get. The system is so broken. Why are you still using the titles? Why are you still Prince Harry and Duchess Meghan? Harry hesitated, his mouth opening, but no words landing. It's complicated. Maher didn't let up. It's not complicated, it's convenient. You keep the titles when they open doors, but drop them when things get messy. You want the status of royalty, without the accountability. That's not principled, that's selective outrage. That's not true, Harry said, voice tight, isn't it? When you're cutting deals with Netflix and Spotify, you're the Duke of Sussex. When people criticize you, you're just Harry, a guy who wants a normal life. So which is it? Harry was now on his feet, pacing, his jaw clenched. You're twisting everything I say. No, Maher replied coolly, I'm pointing out. The contradictions. You say you want privacy, yet you do a primetime Oprah interview. You say you care about charities, yet you charge speaking fees they can't afford. You say you left for your family's safety, then publish a memoir that exposes every personal conversation. I shared those details to give context, to explain why we left, or maybe you shared them because Random House gave you $20 million for the book, Maher snapped. Let's not pretend this was a public service. You've turned being the royal who walked away into a brand and a lucrative one. Harry stopped pacing. His voice was trembling now, from weakness, but from restrained fury. You have no idea what it's like to have every decision picked apart, your motives constantly questioned, your life turned into tabloid fodder by people who know nothing about what you've lived through. I actually do, Maher said, his tone still icy. I've been in the public eye for decades. The difference is I chose it. You were born into it. But then you chose to stay in it. You chose the podcasts, the documentaries. You chose to keep telling your story for a price. I didn't choose to be born into the royal family, Harry growled. No, Maher nodded, but you chose how to respond as an adult. And your response, monetize your trauma while telling everyone you just want to be left alone. You see why people call that hypocrisy? Harry's fists clenched at his sides. I'm done with this. Oh, now you're done, Maher sneered. That's your answer to everything, isn't it? When the heat turns up, walk away? I haven't walked away from anything that matters. Maher didn't miss a beat. Really? You left your military career. You abandoned your work with UK charities. You cut ties with your brother. You turned your back on the Commonwealth. When do you stop running, Harry? When do you start dealing with your life like an adult? The words landed like a slap. The audience audibly gasped. Harry stood frozen, face turning a deep red. Dealing with my life like an adult, he said, voice shaking. I served too. Tours in Afghanistan, while you sat behind a desk cracking jokes. I've worked with wounded veterans. I've launched mental health initiatives. What the hell have you done besides mock people for a living? Maher's eyes lit up. This was the fight he'd been circling all night. What have I done? I've called out hypocrisy wherever I see it, including yours. And right now, what I see is a man who can't handle pushback without blowing up. This isn't me blowing up. This is me standing up to a bully. Harry took a step forward, pointing directly at Maher. A bully with a platform who hides behind sarcasm and smugness. Maher stood now to, voice sharpening. I'm not bullying you, Harry. I'm holding you accountable. If you can't handle being asked real questions, maybe you should stop putting yourself in front of cameras. Harry stepped in closer, lowering his voice to a knife's edge. You want to know what the real problem is, Bill? It's people like you, people who've never had to make the choices I've made, but sit in judgment like they've got all the answers. Maher squared his shoulders. You mean the choice between a Spotify deal or a Netflix deal? Between a mansion in LA or Montecito? Those kinds of tough decisions. The silence in the studio was deafening. No more laughs, no applause. Just raw, palpable discomfort. You know what, Bill? Harry said, voice low but unshakable now. I came here hoping to have an honest, grown-up conversation about the system, mental health, and change. But all you want is a viral clip, a gotcha moment to score likes. Maher didn't blink. No, Harry. What you wanted was a spotlight with no consequences. But when you live in the public eye, you don't get to control the narrative. I'm not trying to control anything. I just wanted respect. Maher leaned in. Respect goes both ways. And so far, all I've seen is you calling me a bully, dismissing my work, and painting yourself as the only person in the world who's ever suffered. And right there Harry's composure shattered. Because you haven't contributed anything, Harry snapped, his voice trembling with fury. All you do is tear people down and make cynical jokes out of serious issues. You're part of the problem, not the solution. Part of the problem? Maher's face was flushed now, the smirk long gone. I've spent 30 years calling out corruption and hypocrisy in the most powerful institutions in the world. The difference is, I don't expect a $20 million paycheck for doing it. And I sure as hell don't play the victim when people disagree. With me, I'm not playing the victim, Harry shot back. I'm defending myself from an ambush masquerading as an interview. Maher leaned forward, unrelenting. Everything I've said is based on your own words. If you think pointing out contradictions is an attack, maybe you should ask yourself why your story has so many contradictions. Harry's hands were shaking now, his voice cracked with raw emotion. Because life is messy, Bill. Because sometimes you have to choose between two bad options. Because sometimes protecting your family means disappointing other people. Or, Maher interrupted, cutting through the air, it means saying whatever people want to hear so, long as there's a big check waiting at the end. Which one are you doing right now, Harry? That was it. Harry's face twisted with fury. He pointed straight at Maher. You know what? I'm done with this interview. With these questions, with pretending this is anything but a staged takedown for your audience's amusement. A staged takedown. Maher's voice dripped with disdain. Your own choices. Harry, if you can't handle being questioned, maybe you should stop giving interviews entirely. Harry's voice dropped to a low, dangerous whisper. Maybe you're right. Maybe I shouldn't waste another second trying to reason with someone who made up his mind about me before I ever walked on stage. Maher fired back. I haven't made up my mind. I'm just trying to understand how a man with every opportunity in life ended up turning self-pity into a full-time job. The words landed like a punch to the gut. Harry's face went pale, then flushed red with rage. Self-pity, he echoed, stunned. You think this is about feeling sorry for myself? Maher didn't flinch. Isn't it your whole message? Is about how unfairly you were treated, how the palace didn't support you, how the media was demean. Sounds like self-pity to me. It's not self-pity, Harry barked. It's accountability. It's about holding a system responsible when it fails the people it claims to protect. Maher raised a brow. And getting paid for it? Everything with you comes back to the payday. You expect people to believe it's all about principle, but they see a man who cashed in on conflict. That's your problem, Harry shot back. You think everything's about money because you can't imagine anyone doing something from a place of conviction. No, Maher said coldly. I can imagine it. I've just never seen it from you. The studio was dead silent. No laughter, no shifting, just tension thick enough to snap. Harry stared at Maher, the rage in his eyes slowly hardening into something colder, more final. When he spoke, his voice was barely above a whisper, but laced with venom. You know what this interview has shown me, Bill? Everything I needed to know about you, and nothing I didn't already know about myself. I came here in good faith. I wanted to talk about change, about trauma, about real issues, but you turned it into a circus. Maher started. No, I'm talking now. Harry cut him off. You've built your whole career mocking people who actually try to make a difference, and when they push back, you act surprised. You're not a truth teller, Bill. You're just another entertainer feeding on other people's pain. Maher's jaw clenched. At least I don't pretend to be something I'm not. I'm not a humanitarian collecting streaming checks. Harry began walking off stage. Over his shoulder, his voice rang out, and I don't pretend to be a journalist while orchestrating character assassinations for ratings. Maher stood at his desk, stunned. Where are you going? We're not done here. Harry turned, eyes blazing. Yes, we are. This interview is over, just like this conversation, just like any respect I had left for you or this show. You can't just walk out in the middle of Watch Me. And with that, Harry disappeared off set. The cameras kept rolling in stunned silence as Bill Maher stood alone, unable to hide the disbelief on his face. After a long pause, he finally managed to speak, his voice missing its usual bite. Well, I guess that's one way to end an interview. This explosive clash between Prince Harry and Bill Maher wasn't just a celebrity dust-up, it was a head-on. Control versus critique, sincerity versus spectacle. It was uncomfortable, raw, and utterly unforgettable. What do you think? Did Harry walk away with his dignity intact? Or was Maher's questioning justified? Let us know in the comments, and don't forget to subscribe for more unfiltered moments from the world of power, fame, and fallout.